So, what is the impact of biases or the lack of diversity and inclusion? Um, you know, not really understanding where our biases come from and why we think the way we think, and not having diversity and inclusion in our workplace, it really affects the level of talent and performance that we have. Um, folks that should be qualified for advancement and promotion opportunities are not really offered that opportunity, and it really impacts how the opportunities are distributed. So, needless to say, there's a reduction in productivity, there's a reduction in the level of engagement, there's a lack of trust, which ends up, bottom line, affecting your clients and affecting the business. So, on the flip side, when you have this diverse, workforce, when you have this inclusion, you have high performers, your team, your culture. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she, after 2 years, wants to leave her organization because it's the company culture. She just doesn't feel that they're fair in terms of how they give out promotions and advancement opportunities. So on the reverse side, when you have an inclusive workforce where everyone feels heard, and there's more engagement, there's more high performance, there's reduced burnout, there's less, tension, there's higher morale because there's reduced burnout, and burnout is real. I mean, these are all things that impact your performance level. There's more trust, which really goes into having more longevity in the organization, which has a direct impact on your costs because there's lower attrition. So who wouldn't want to work in an environment where there's increased productivity, engagement, and a sense of satisfaction? But it does take work. It really does take work, and it kind of takes that awareness. So some of the work that it takes is really around tone at the top. So when I deal with my clients, when I'm working on leadership development with my clients, sometimes they will come in and say, "Well, my teams are not performing well," or um, "I can't seem to delegate because they're not getting the work done," and they have all of these different issues that they want me to help them with. And what I do is say, "Let's start at the top, right? What are you as a leader? What are you doing?" Right? And so I always start with the tone at the top. So it's the leader's responsibility to really foster this environment of motivation and an engagement. So the leader really needs to be aware. There needs to be awareness of what's going on with the team. What are your employees going through? What do they need to be more successful? What are some of their challenges around inclusion or lack of inclusion? The leader also must be authentic, kind of going back to providing the feedback on your performance. You have to really be aware of what's going on in order to provide authentic feedback. And when you're able to provide consistent, authentic feedback, it's more of a motivator, because your team members understand where you're coming from, what your expectations are, but they also know that you are going to give them this feedback and that you have their best interests at heart. You have to be intentional around finding space to have this dialogue. You really have to be intentional around showing your team members that diversity inclusion is really something that's important and that it's a priority, and you just really have to make the space to have the dialogue and the conversation. And then being curious, going underneath, asking questions, going down deeper, not at the surface level, but really going down deeper to understand what is happening with your team members, what do they need, what are they struggling with, and how you as a leader can help support them to 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 be better at what it is that they need. What kind of support do you need to give them? But the only way to really find that out is by being curious and asking those questions, and also being fair. Going back to, you want to avoid the favoritism. You want to avoid the appearance that a certain group, kind of going back to the affinity biases, avoid the appearance of only giving projects to certain individuals or individuals that you feel are high performers. Maybe there are some folks that need more training and more of your time and need more exposure so that they would have an opportunity to grow and to be recognized. And then the common theme that I'm throughout this whole presentation is a commitment to act. It's not enough to just talk about awareness or go through training or identify what your team members need. You as a leader have to be committed to take action. And also knowing that it may sound overwhelming, but little steps go a long way in terms of creating that momentum, in terms of creating that engagement, and in terms of motivating.